Okay, this is a new thing for me. I'm trying to do a voiceover for this video, help you learn a little bit more what I'm doing. This video documents the making of a pattern for a briefcase. I have a friend who wanted a briefcase that would fit her 15-inch laptop, so I'm making here a pattern, essentially a template of how big a 15-inch MacBook would be as an example. And so I'm cutting it out of this is about 3/4 inch plywood, because that's how thick the computer would be. I've got the dimensions laid out on the piece, and when I'm done I'll have a block that I can actually use to gauge how big this laptop would be. I would actually have used a real laptop, but I didn't have access to one of the appropriate size, so I'm having to make a mock-up for it. This way I'll know that my dimensions work out for the actual bag. You can see I'm having trouble. This bandsaw blade was not a very expensive one. It was get you what you pay for, so it was giving me a really hard time getting through this. And subsequently I went to a local machine shop, actually specializes in bandsaws, and had to make a really nice blade for me that's worked really well for last year. I don't do a whole lot of work with the bandsaw, so I don't need blades that often. Here I'm cleaning up the edges of the template on the belt sander, trying to get it so that it doesn't cut me while I'm making the making the bag template. So just smoothing it out. It's not going to look real pretty. It's just got to do this particular job. So before I make any new bags, any new leather goods that I haven't done before, I try to spec them out in cardboard using usually cereal boxes, because they're free and they behave a lot like the leather but don't cost anything. And I can get the dimensions set the way that I want them to and see how it'll actually behave in some ways, and then build the bag from that. So right here I've laid out, this is the base dimension. Got the, laid out, this is how big the bag's going to be from front to back, so that it'll accommodate that laptop. So I'm going to mark it on the cardboard and then cut it out using my box cutter. Trying to make sure I don't cut off my fingers at the same time. I did that one time, that was no fun. You always want to be careful when you're laying out something to cut. Two things: you want to put the ruler on the side that you don't want to cut, so it's protecting your workpiece. And then you also want to make sure your fingers are arrayed in such a way that if the blade slips, it isn't going to jump over and cut through your fingers. I learned that the hard way. I'm very careful with the box cutter when I'm cutting leather or cardboard now, because one of my fingers is about 2 millimeters shorter than the rest of them. Okay, so I got the front of the briefcase set up, and I need to make the back and then add the back flap to it. So I'm cutting another piece of cardboard here that'll fit, match up to this one, and then I'm going to attach a piece to that so that I'll be able to spec out the flap. Here I'm getting the sides of the gusset laid out. One of the things I've learned is that I like briefcases that are easy to get into and get the stuff out of, and one of the ways I can make sure that happens is by having the top of the side gusset be wider than the bottom. About 1 inch is usually enough. And I don't like to do a lot of trigonometry, so what I do is I set it up so that I've got the top line, the top width laid out on the paper, on the cardboard, and then the height laid out too, and then I take the ruler and I measure the distance that side of the bag's got to be, and I just run that line from the width at the top to the edges of the bottom, and that gets me set up without having to do any trigonometry or measuring any angles. I can just lay it out and then cut it, and so you see here I can match it up and it's the right length. Again, so you're laying it out so that the ruler protects the workpiece, so if your blade slips, it slips away from the workpiece, and you're going to be careful and thoughtful so it doesn't jump over and get to your fingers. That's the worst. Okay, and the way that the gussets are going to set up, we have to have the sewing allowance marked out, and then you have to actually cut a little window at the bottom. It's going to fit with the base gusset to make everything come together, as you'll see in the final bag. So here I'm just cutting another one out. You can see on this piece I had started to lay it out on this piece of cardboard before, but I was dissatisfied with how it was coming out, so I started over, and I'm just using this cardboard now to make a second side gusset piece. If I wasn't going to build the whole mock-up bag, I wouldn't need to make two of these. I could just make one and then cut it twice in the leather, but I wanted to actually put the whole bag together in cardboard to see how it would fit. I hadn't made this particular size before. So that's what I'm working on. So I got a new view, I got the base cut out, and now I'm cutting out the cardboard piece. It's going to be the flap. So I have to get the base of that straight and the right width. And then I cut it long so that I can put the whole bag together and see how long the flap needs to be able to accommodate the bag when it's all the way open and also when it's closed. So I'm trying to get the proportions right. So that's what it's going on here. Oh, and this piece right here is the bottom gusset. Really quickly cutting that out. It's just a rectangle that's the same width as the face of the bag, and then the same depth as the side gusset at the bottom. It also has to have the seam allowance laid out, and then the corners come off of it, so it'll fit together with the side gussets and make the bag work well. So now I'm going to start to mock it all up. I've got all the pieces, and actually bending these pieces the wrong way to start with, so I can go through and I'm bending them all up to get them ready to do the gussets, and then once I get it started to tape together, I realize I made my mistake and I have to go back and twist everything back the other way. Okay, so I'm putting it all together with the blue tape because I want to take it back apart and use the pieces to actually cut out the leather, which you'll see in a future video. It was going to be too long to have the pattern making and the actual bag together in the same video, so this is just a video of the pattern making to give you an idea of the process. Yep, so to get those to go the other way, it doesn't really matter except that I wanted the cardboard to be on the outside and then the Lucky Charms and whatever on the inside of the bag. It would be easier to see the bag for what it is this way and not be distracted by all of the colorful printing from the cereal boxes. Yeah, okay, so there's the face going on. You can see I've got my seam allowance, so this will give me a good idea of the proper depth on the inside. Big difference is, of course, the leather's got a lot more thickness than the cardboard does. So I'm using a Latigo for the actual bag, which got some pretty good heft. It's, I guess, about 4 to 5 ounce leather. The cardboard is stiff and behaves like that leather, but it's thin. It's got the thickness of about a 2 ounce leather. Okay, so I'm taping this flap onto the back so that I'll have the whole back piece ready to go. And then that's got to get taped onto the front with the gussets to hold it all together. When it's done, it'll actually look kind of like a briefcase. There we go. I didn't want to overdo it with the blue tape because it's all got to come back apart again to be used for the pattern for cutting the leather. And that looks like a briefcase, and look at that, the MacBook fits inside no problem. Okay, but now I got to figure out how long the flap's got to be, because you want it to be short enough that it's hanging out when you got the briefcase closed with nothing in it, but then at the same time, if you got it completely full, you want that flap to be able to adequately cover the inside. And then I'm also going to build a front pocket for it, and I gotta have the dimensions for that pocket set up so that it'll be adequately covered by the flap even when the bag's pretty full. So that's what I'm measuring right now, is dimensions for the front pocket and for the flap so that they'll interface properly. A lot of thinking, a lot of measuring and doodling on this, but you know, measure twice, cut once. Okay, I got it figured out. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay out the edge. Looks like it's about 8 inches from the top of the bag. And actually I've made several of this style bag with different dimensions, and it turns out that flap tends to be about 8 inches. No matter how thick the bag is or how long the face of the bag is, 8 inches seems to be a good number. I'm starting to learn. Okay, yep, using my old shaving mug as the radius for the corners here. I like that particular size of radius, and it works pretty well. And I was going to get these set up now so that when I'm cutting the leather, I can go ahead and have that radius scribed into it. It makes it easier to get everything right. Of course, if I ever want to make another bag of this size, I keep all the pattern pieces, and it's pretty straightforward to do it then. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Okay, here we go. There's the bag. It looks like a briefcase, except of course it's, you know, cereal boxes on the inside. And there's still some more to go because I have to build that front pocket mock-up. I'm showing that it's about 4 inches deep, which is a good depth. And then you can see it's, I think it's about 15 inches, 16 inches wide. If you're interested, I can send you the specifications. You know, I'm drawing them out here on this piece of paper. So the other thing I've learned is that if you want to put a pocket on and have it accommodate stuff, it's a good idea to have that pocket be wider at the top than at the bottom. I built my first briefcase of this kind with a front pocket that's the same width at the top and the bottom, and so when you put items into the pocket, it causes the bag to bulge both forward and into the body of the bag, and that takes away from your storage space in the body. So by building this one with the front pocket about 1 inch wider at the top than at the bottom, and again I'm using the trick of doing the trigonometry with the ruler and not with, you know, a calculator, so I don't have to do a whole bunch of math. By doing that, it makes the pocket pooch out towards the outside of the bag and save you interior storage space. So it's a more efficient design, I think. So when I build bags like this with the kind of front pocket, that's how I'm going to do it from now on. Yeah, see there, we're going to tape it on. As a consequence of making it wider at the top and the bottom, it gives you space without taking up space from the inside of the bag. I think it's a pretty efficient design. I'm taping it down at the middle because there's going to be an interior pocket sewn down in the middle to create 2 pockets in addition to the main one. So there you go. That's the bag done. If you like this, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have more videos. I'm going to show how I actually built the leather bag that comes from this. I've got some other leather bag videos too. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time.